You know, the history of Rapala in designing baits that mimic nature goes back to the very beginning. For me, it was the first lure I ever used as a kid, a 9S original floater, and how that bait imitated the alewife on a lake that I fished as a kid. And that's really the key to all artificials. It's a theory called match the hatch. Match the hatch means imitating something natural in the environment, something alive. And we're talking about color, we're talking about shape, but the most important thing we're talking about is that natural movement. How a minnow or a bluegill or a shad or a shiner, how those baits naturally move in the environment. And those movements a lot of times are subtle. And Rapala with its baits hits that right on the head. Those subtle movements, those natural clues to get bass to feed, that's the key in bass fishing, and that's the key in the success of Rapala baits. You know, the new Rapala Shadow Rap is different than any other jerkbait out there, and a lot of it has to do with the movement of the bait. These subtle little movements of this bait that make those fish react. You know, it's got this uncanny ability to do these slight rolls as you work the bait. And those little rolls, that's exactly what a minnow would do, or a shad, or a shiner. Those little tiny rolls to the side. And if you think about that roll, it's also providing the ability for the bait to flash every time it moves to the side. Again, a very natural look to see a bait fish shimmy. You know, not an exaggerated movement, but this subtle little shimmy. The other thing that makes this jerkbait so unique is its ability to fade off, especially fade off into a different zone. And as you work this bait and stop it, the Shadow Rap has the ability to kind of glide real naturally. And as it does that, it's got that very subtle shimmy. Again, just like something natural in the environment. When you combine the twitching motion with that slight roll and that slight flash, and then at the end, you add that fade into the shadows, that's the key of the Shadow Rap. Everybody needs to get one of these Shadow Raps. Everyone should have one of these Shadow Raps in the box because it's the closest thing to imitating bait that'll be in your box. If you want to match the hatch, if you want to imitate something alive in the environment, not with big, giant, loud, noisy movements, but with subtle roll, subtle flash, and a subtle fade, this is the kind of bait you want. Put a Shadow Rap in your box. I guarantee you're going to get a lot of bites, you're going to get a lot of bites all year, and you're going to match the hatch. Key deal to the Shadow Rap.